All right, Bernard and Darius, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a beautiful day, it's an exciting day, and it's wonderful that you've agreed to share your experiences with us. So, Thriving Friends, today we are learning about something, right? We are going to talk about how to apply to schools abroad, and we are using our specific experiences. We know that everybody's experience is different, the schools are different, the procedures are different, but we've heard that people are paying so much money for this same process. So we thought we will at least let you know how we did it and see if that can help you with your process. Okay. So, Darius, Bernard, please, if you can unmute and introduce yourself. Let's start with Darius. Can you introduce yourself and where you currently are, the program you are studying? That would be great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. G, and a lovely, um, beautiful greetings to your viewers on Thriving with Dr. G. I just heard you say Thriving Friends. I think that's a nice name. So, Thriving Friends, I'm pleased to share my experience with you today. My name is Darius, and I am from Ghana originally. So Dr. G and I will speak Chi, and then just like Bernard and everybody else. But I guess this goes beyond the borders of Ghana. But then, yes, I'm from Ghana. I had my undergraduate um, in biochemistry, and then also I got a master's in infectious diseases before applying for a PhD to come to UND. And so currently I'm here in UND and I'm doing a PhD in biomedical sciences. So this is just about a summary or something brief that I guess should suffice. But if there's any more to answer, you can just send the question and I'll gladly answer.
And
Thank
the
you.
question will be, what is UND?
Well, UND is University of North Dakota, sorry. University of North Dakota. So yes, I'm here at the University of North Dakota, and I'm in the biomedical science program, which is under the School of Medicine and Health Sciences. Thank
That's
you.
wonderful. Thank you so much, Bernard.
Okay, so as you all know, I'm also Bernard. I'm originally from Ghana too, and I'm currently at the University of North Dakota in the graduate biomedical sciences program. Prior to this, I completed my undergraduate in physician assistantship studies, where I proceeded to work at the infectious disease center at the university hospital, KNOST, for a couple of time, and then I moved here. I came last January, so I'm just new here. Yeah, so I think that's all there is to know about me.
Thank you, Bernard. So, you are both from Ghana, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, Ghana.
Yeah, Ghana.
And thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation with me. I am excited about it. I think it's going to be a great time. So, back to Darius. Why did you decide to travel out of home for education? What motivated you to start looking for schools?
All right. Thank you so much. So, um, I guess after my undergraduate training, um, I during my national service days, I was a teaching assistant, and I did my service as a teaching assistant at the University of Ghana, Department of Biochemistry, and thankfully then the West African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens, which is in short WACBIP, had just started, and WACBIP was so just like we have Noguchi and then Bernard's KCCR, we have WACBIP, and then WACBIP had started just a couple of years, and so it had whipped up interest in masters and then masters in infectious diseases and in biochemistry, and so it was a beautiful opportunity for those of us who were there then to become interested. I knew after my undergraduate that I was going to get into masters, I was going to get a PhD, and then get higher degrees. But which area I was going to do it in, I didn't know. Even though my interests have always been biased towards the health sciences, and so Um, During the days of Wagbeb, I mean the early days of Wagbeb, Wagbeb was enrolling grad students in the PhD and then in master's class, and so that was where the interest started from.
Mm.
And then it grew. I knew that I was enjoying studying infectious diseases, and specifically, I was working in the virology lab, and so we built a lot of interest around viruses, and then it was HIV, understanding specifically what we call latency in HIV. So it all started from there, and then the interests grew. Now, at some point, WAGBIP will always invite international faculty because WAGBIP was international. So we had international faculty coming from Cornell, from
Mm.
Sussex, from Edinburgh, from Yale, from Pittsburgh. And then most of the faculty, the resident faculty in Ghana had also trained outside. And
Okay.
so it was beautiful to see them train outside to come in with a different mindset. And if you watch the statistics of how many people got interested in grad school prior to their coming, you can see the vast difference. And so that was where the interest started from. Now,
Mm.
all of them had gone out to trade. So even though Wagbip had a very beautiful program for people who wanted to train locally in Ghana, they exposed us to the international faculty. We started talking to them and they said, okay, look, even though some of the science that you guys see us do can be done in Ghana, it's always a nice thing to have your training in outside. So that was where the interest started from. And then we said, okay, we're going to go out there to see what kind of science is done outside. Yes, it can be done in Ghana, thankfully to Wagbep and Noguchi and then to KCCR. But for the purposes of having a different environment of training, one, and then two, having a more funded program, because biomedical science research in Ghana can be a bit boring and it can be frustrating, especially because most of the things that we use are sourced from outside, from antibodies to chemicals to reagents.
Mhm.
Everything is sourced from outside. So you even have the money to order something. I mean, here we order something and within 3-4 days we have it. But then
Okay.
in Ghana, you have the money, you order it, and it takes months for you to get it. So it was more than enough reason for us to say, okay, let's go experience what our teachers got that made them come back with a different mindset of writing grants, winning grants, setting up research labs, and then let's learn from there. And that was why our goal and focus shifted slightly from Ghana to the Western.
So for you, it was more for the exposure and then knowing where the source of the resources were coming from. You wanted to go to the source, learn from the source.
Right. I mean, everything was coming from either from the US or from the UK, and we
Okay.
were buying everything from the US or the UK, and even the funds that we're working with. I mean, one of the biggest funds that WAGBIP had was the World Bank grant, and then the Delta's grant, and these two were sourced from outside, and
Mm.
so the money was coming from outside, the reagents, everything was coming from outside, and even the expertise that who were teaching us were also from outside. I mean, even though they are Ghanaians, they had gone out to train and then they were back.
Yeah.
So it was okay to join that pool, get the exposure, learn how to competitively write for grants, win grants, learn how to set up labs, learn what goes into organizing a lab, and
Mhm.
then running and doing impactful and relevant science that will affect policymaking.
I like that. Impactful and relevant science. Thank you, Darius.
Awesome.
How about Bernard? What motivated you?
Okay, so mine would be a bit of a deviation, unlike Darius, who had done a lot of basic science research all through his journey. For me, I was into clinical science, doing clinical practice, and
Okay.
then I just happened to, as fate would have it, I just happened to have met my then boss, Dr. Isi Boatin, at the university hospital. He is the head of the infectious disease unit. So he had a lot of um, clinical research ongoing with regards to HIV, hepatitis B, all those infectious conditions that we have back home in Ghana.
Okay.
So he he began to have a critical interest in me. And then he started pushing me to not see myself as I used to see myself, but to think or to see myself beyond what I saw at that time and
Okay.
to look for other opportunities elsewhere. So the more I delved into the clinical science, the clinical practice, that was where it piqued my interest to look for other opportunities where I can actually learn the basic science behind the clinical stuff that we used to do. Because here,
Mm-hmm.
here I found myself. You go to the clinic every day. You have tons of people living with HIV coming into the clinic, people having hepatitis B coming into the clinic, and
Mm-hmm.
then beyond the clinical practice, there isn't much that you as an individual you can do to, like Darius said, to do science to influence policy making. So you just go in, do the clinical parts, and then that's all you can do as an individual. So it actually that sort of drive kind of pushed me into that direction to, okay, let me try and see if I can learn more of the basic science behind the clinical science that we do. And then
Okay.
at that time, I got in touch with a couple of the medical professors that used to visit the hospital, and then those that I knew from my church. And then most of them, when you talk to them, they don't even think twice. They will tell you, then start looking for schools outside. Start
Yes.
looking for schools outside, because studying outside will, one, put you on a pedestal to do more, and then also the kind of exposure in terms of the opportunities that bring to the table, they are vast. So I think that was, for me, that was the main motivation, that
Okay.
I had some kind of experience in terms of the clinical practice, but then I wanted more than just going to sit in the consulting room from Monday to Friday and just going through the mundanes that you used to do every now and then.
Mm.
So for me, that was my motivation. It was just for me to inquire more about the basic science behind the clinical practice. And as fate will have it, I'm here today.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. So back to Darius. How did you choose the school? There are several schools around the world, and even if United States is where you wanted to come to, there are hundreds of schools. How did you go about the search, and how did you land on this one?
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I guess it's a very rigorous process. And
Mm-hmm.
back then, it was one thing that we used to say. We used to laugh about it, and we say that this thing, it's a job on its own,
Mm,
because you need to commit time to it. You need to commit efforts to it. It's a lot of commitment, especially when it comes to time.
yeah.
And then there's a little bit of finances around it, but that is not, to me, that is not a big deal. The big deal is time.
Time.
So when it comes to choosing the schools, this was it. We knew where our faculties have trained. Somewhere in Pittsburgh, somewhere in Georgia State, somewhere in Freiburg, Heidelberg, um, Edinburgh. I mean, we had known. And then also we knew for the international faculties who were visiting us, we knew the schools they were coming from.
Mhm.
So it gave us a fair idea. And I mean, I have this opinion, and I know it's true that not all schools accept students. It's easier, for example, schools will accept students based on what experience they have. So if you
Mhm.
have a school that has, say, a Ghanaian over there, and then the Ghanaian is doing well and
Mhm.
is making strides, it's more easier for another Ghanaian to get in, or it's easier to make recommendations. Okay, I have this other Ghanaian, so it plays around those lines. It's
Yeah.
political, but you can't take that out, because definitely, I mean, sometimes you write to professors and then they don't know you, and so they will not even reply your email. Thankfully, the U.S. system doesn't necessarily demand that you talk to a professor before you get in. In some other places like Australia, the UK, some of the schools, okay, talk to a professor. Now, if you don't know the professor, you talk to them, you probably might not get any response because they don't know you.
Yeah.
Some don't even know that there's a country called Ghana.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
yes, they know that there's a continent called Africa, and people will come from there, but they do not know what we do. They do not know what kind of science we do. So I got to hear, I heard about UND because one of our visiting faculties had come to UND, and UND was where he schooled. Now, I also knew that we had a student, one of my mates, but then he started his PhD early, and then he also was in the NDSU, that's North Dakota State University. So here in
Okay.
North Dakota, we have the University of North Dakota and then the North Dakota State University. So he was in the State University. So that was how I knew about this school, and then the schools that my seniors had gone to. So those were schools that I was looking at because I knew that okay, there's a Ghanaian here. I knew Edmond was in Michigan. I knew Michelle was in Iowa. I knew where the Ghanaians are, and then
Okay.
it always gave me that impression and that thought that okay, if these guys are doing well over there, so they have a fair idea because usually one of the things that makes it easy for you to get into graduate school, and every interview committee will ask you that okay, what's your research experience? And
Yeah.
it's going to be very important for you to answer and say that okay, I have done this, I have done this, I've done that, I've done that. Now
Yeah.
they don't know, but by the time they leave with one or two people from Ghana, they know that okay, these people have some good or relevant background in research. They have some good idea about non-clinical diseases. They have spent some time in the lab. There are labs in Ghana. There are research labs in Ghana. So these things count. So I got
Yeah.
the knowledge of UND from one of our visiting faculty who schooled here, and then also from some of my seniors. So it wasn't just UND I applied to, but then to most of the schools that had Africans in there.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay, so your criteria is Africa. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to know if my people are there.
Yeah, yeah, I have to. I mean, and it's also very important because um, you want to be in a place where you feel welcome. So
Hmm.
we might have to be a bit silent about it, but you don't want to find yourself in a place where the people are hostile to you. They are not homey, they are not welcoming. But then if you so beyond okay, I want to do good science, I want to get a funded program. You also want to be sure okay, is this safe for blacks here? Can blacks live there? Because yeah, that's our skin color. I mean, we are blacks, so we want to be sure that okay, wherever I go, they have that beautiful environment. Take it or leave it. Um, it's not always the case. So I looked at all of these things and said, okay, well, if this guy is doing well here, then it means that they have affinity, they like us, and so we can work with them. And for me, that was it.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. It's a great point you are making. Do your research, know where the school is. Some schools are great, but where is the school? Which city? Which people are there? Very, very good point. Bernard, what about yours? How did you go about choosing your school?
I think okay. So for me, from the word go, what I did was to rely on people that I knew that I had already traveled here.
Okay.
So maybe you talk to them, but most of them were not science folks. They were doing other things, maybe business, arts programs. So I just had to maybe talk to them, and then they will say, "Oh, we know this person. This person is here doing this program. So maybe you can check from their website and see." And luckily for me, there was this female friend of mine from back home from church, and then
Mhm.
she had come to NDSU in Fargo.
Mhm.
So they had a, I knew I wanted to do something in the lines of infectious disease, microbiology, immunology, that kind of. So I knew they had a microbiology program in NDSU, but then I put in the application and then I didn't get even any response. So it was she that prompted me that oh, there is this university here, University of North Dakota. Honestly, had it not been for her, I never knew about University of North Dakota.
I
But
see.
in the processes, in the events leading to even this, by contacting her, I went to the Masters Portal website that I told you about.
Oh yeah, you can go ahead and share
Yeah.
your screen and
So
show us how it looks like.
can you see the so
Yes.
this so this is how the website looks like. It gives you the country, so where to study, what to study. So I knew the areas that are like I wanted to focus on for my grad school. So I will just come and then maybe I will just type maybe let's say microbiology in United States.
Hmm.
And then it will kind of give me a list of all the schools that offer those programs. Like Dario said, it's a bit time consuming. It's not for the faint hearted. You just have to be apply yourself, you have to be diligent. And then so what I did was that, so if I get to know, okay, this program, so I'll just pick, and then I'll go to, so the first one is University of South Florida. I'll go to their website, and then I'll check all the requirements. And then in my requirements, I didn't want to also go and write TOEFL because I had
Mhm.
already written GRE. And then some of the schools will tell you that if you're an international applicant, you have to go and do a course by course evaluation with World Education Services, which
Yeah.
is also like around close to $300. I didn't want to also spend that kind of money. So based on this, and then with my own criteria and then the school's requirements, I was doing elimination by rough tactics. So this school I won't apply because they are going to require me to write TOEFL and
Oh,
also do a course by course evaluation. And then one
mm,
other thing that was so important to me was the funding
okay.
because I wasn't in a position to fund myself, or maybe you're not going to write to Ghana scholarship secretariat if you do not know anybody over there. The way back home things are done, if you don't have anybody deep in there to connect you to get the funding, then that means you have admission, you cannot come. So I was also critical on that, so I will make sure that I will send the graduate coordinator an email to find out that whether there are graduate teaching assistantship or graduate research assistantship positions for admitted students. So I did it, and then I can, if I'm to go back to like a year or two ago, and then my email, my inbox, I'm to open it now. Like it's just schools, and then it's the same format of email. I will
Okay.
send to them, and then even if it is stated at their website, I want clarification from the graduate um um the admissions director. So
Mm,
I'll ask about whether Ghanaians, I don't even ask Africans. I will ask whether Ghanaians can waive the English requirement because English happens to be our official
official language.
language.
Yeah.
And I also ask about whether they give tuition waivers in the form of graduate assistantships. So
Okay.
these were the two critical questions that I was asking them, and whether they offer rotations because some of the programs will Darius initially spoke about that you have to contact a professor before you can even put in your application. So you send the professor an email, they do not know you, and then some of them and then Dr. G, you know this, you receive tons of emails in a day that sometimes by the time, because of time difference, maybe I wake up at 9 in Ghana and I
Mm-hmm.
send the professor over here an email, and then there is a time difference of 6 to 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time he or she wakes up, he or she has about
And then,
more than 20 emails that have come in, and then they have come to push your email further below. So
yeah.
they might not even see your email in the first place. And then even if they see, they don't even know you to
Absolutely
even
right.
begin a conversation with you. So I was also sure because it's so frustrating when you send an email and then you don't get any response. It looks as if they've ignored you. So I went through that phase of my application process. So I told myself that I'm going to focus on three cardinal things.
Mm-hmm.
They offer funding
Funded.
in the form of graduate assistantship. and then would they give me tuition waiver if I'm admitted? Would I have to get would I be able to get the TOEFL requirement waived because I'm coming from Ghana? And then the third thing, would I have to contact a professor before I can put in my application? Because if no professor tells you to apply and then you put in, so I think that was what happened to me for the NDSU. The professor that gave me assurance, the time I put in my application, after the application, she wrote to me, I think it was around December, that unfortunately she was expecting some grants to take on new students, but because she didn't receive the grant, if I'm in the position to fund myself, she can't promise, but if I end up being in the program, she might get funding and then she will fund me. And I was like, a program of maybe 3, 4, 5 years, with no assurance anywhere. Where is my poor
Yeah.
mother going to get that
Yeah.
kind of money to fund
Follow your
me
hope in
for
Ghana.
2, 3 years before the professor gets funding to start funding me? So these were my three issues. So I will just painstakingly. So at that time, I was working for church at CCC, and then I was also working for Tech Hospital. So I will go when I close I go from church from 8 to 2 p.m. in the like 2 p.m. and then I go to my hospital job from 2 to 8 just to gather money. And
The
then
guy had a lot of money.
along
There's
along
locum
that
everywhere.
around that same time, I was doing a bit of locums here and
Exactly.
there in order
Yay!
to gather money for the application process. And in
Look,
the night, when I get home by 8, I will sit behind my computer and then I will painstakingly. I had a notebook just for admission applications, so I
mm,
will write them down. So if it is NDS, what are the requirements that the graduate admissions director told me to told me, and then when is their deadlines? Because when you apply and then the deadline has passed, they will end up reviewing your application. But then if there are funding opportunities available, they will consider the people that applied prior to the end of the deadline,
yeah,
before they end up considering you. Because it happened to me. I applied to one school, University of Wisconsin La Crosse. I had the admission offer, but then because I put in my application late, they told me that they had considered the people for funding already. So
yeah,
if I can come in the following year, because I'm already in the program, I will be given priority. So that is also another thing that people should also look at. So I was clear in my mind what I wanted. And then there are about more than 5,000 university higher degree awarding institutions in the US. So
yeah.
if one door closes, I just move on. I close the chapter and then I move on to other school. And then I made sure I painstakingly sent these emails to the graduate the admissions directors. And then that was how come UND was the last university I applied to, because I had
Mm,
already received admissions um during the COVID year, but because of COVID, I couldn't come, so I had to defer them. And then those ones had come in, I think, around December. So UND was the last application that I did. That one was even my boss that pushed me, and then that female friend that I said that she was at NDSU, and they said, "Oh, let me just try," because I think the application fee was around $35. By that time, I could afford, because I had been doing $9,500, and then most of them you will not hear anything from them. So I was a bit reluctant trying to splash another dollars for another application fee.
yeah.
But God being so good, this was my last application, and this was the one that came with full funding. I had additional two that also came with full funding, but then I just happened to find myself here. Yeah.
You wanted to be with me, don't worry. Yeah, Darius, you didn't say anything about money. How did you fund your applications?
So thank you so much. Thank you so much personally. And this is one thing that I say, and I think I can be very emphatic here. It's not worth paying money for your PhD program. It's not
Mm,
worth it. If you can afford it, whether or I keep saying it, whether or not you can afford it, it's not worth it,
Mm.
because PhD, especially in the sciences, or let me limit this discussion of what let me limit my statement to PhD in the biomedical science, because that's where I belong.
Okay.
It's not worth to say that, okay, I have a PhD and so I'm going to pay for my PhD, or I have a PhD and I'm going to pay for my research. No, it's not worth it. Now, for me, all those around me, thankfully, who had gone for PhDs, I knew were funded.
Okay.
So in my mind, it's either there's a full funding or there's nothing like a partial fund. No, I'm not taking anything like that. And
Okay.
going in, I knew I was going for full funding, and nothing short of that. And more often than not, there are only a few schools in the US who will offer you a PhD in the biomedical sciences without giving you funding.
Mm.
Nearly all schools will give you substantial funding, except in cases like what Bernard described, where your application doesn't come early. And so they say that, okay, our grants can take care of 10, but our research labs can take care of 12 or 13. So you can come in. Even with that, when you enter, there will still be opportunities for you to apply for some scholarships here and there. I mean, within the circles, but for them to have responsibility for you, or financial responsibility for you from the beginning, it's important that you send in your application early. So funding is, yes, very important and very critical.
Mm-hmm.
I was always looking at schools that were going to give full funding, and thankfully UND did. And so it, it it wasn't anything for me to think about. It wasn't anything for me to now decide that, okay, where am I going to get funds from? Where am I going to get this? Nope. I The experience that my lecturers and then my friends who are taking the lead had told us was that, okay, usually in the biomedical sciences, once you put in your application, it goes through. Now, for the purposes of your audience, your thriving friends, I know not all of them in biomedical sciences. You have
Yeah.
some of them in arts and psychology and
Yeah.
philosophy and everywhere. It still applies that it is possible to get funding for your PhD.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much possible to get it. I personally would not advise anybody to go into a PhD program that is not giving you funding at all. It should be able to give you funding, because PhD is research,
Mm-hmm.
and every research has got funding. Every research is funded. If you don't have funds, your research cannot thrive. So if you say you are doing research, and whatever area you're going to do the research in has got some funding. So everyone, when you're applying, apply for scholarships. Try to get scholarships, and it's possible. You have to be committed to it. You have to put in a good application, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody wants to be funded, and usually these slots are for few. So you have to be consciously put in a competitive application, put in a good package, make sure that you have your documents on point, and then aim at nothing but a funded PhD or master's.
Okay. As a professor, I need to speak. Okay, so we talking about funding doesn't mean like there's free money somewhere that you somebody just takes and give it to you that hey, take this money, pay for your fees, go. No, 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 no. You are offering something in exchange for that tuition waiver or funding. So from what Darius and Bernard are both saying is the same thing. Most professors will apply for different funding opportunities like grants to work on their research. And then they will employ these graduate students to help them. Am I right? Give me a note. Yeah. So instead of hiring somebody from outside, graduate students would do this research with their professors, and it's the learning opportunity for them. And then the professor is also benefiting because you are doing this research together, you can publish together, you are finding whatever you people are finding together,
Yeah.
and then at the end of the day you are all served. It's not like free money is there, so why are they not giving me this free money? So you have to actually look into schools that the professors are productive. Not all schools have money. Keep that in mind. Not all schools have money. Some really do not have the funding because professors are probably more of a teaching institution. If they are teaching more than research, they probably do not have so much to spare. But if it's a research institution, it's most likely that money will be there. Who wants to comment on this?
Yes, And I absolutely agree with you. So as we hear, being funded for a PhD doesn't mean we are only doing our classroom work. We do lots of research. We spend a lot of time in the lab. And so usually when you are giving funding, it
Mm-hmm.
just means that you will work as a graduate research assistant or you will work as a teaching assistant. I mean, you offer some kind of intellectual service, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what we call funding. So you have to be able to demonstrate, and that's a key word, to demonstrate that you are capable of taking on responsibilities as a graduate research assistant or as a teaching assistant or um, as a field assistant. I mean, depending on which field you are in, you should
Yeah.
demonstrate your ability to
Mm-hmm.
assist in research because the
Mm-hmm.
funds are coming from grants, and
Yeah.
these grants I know run the research, and so you should be able to demonstrate that you can function in a research unit and take on assignments.
Yeah. And then most social sciences may not have as much funding as the basic sciences. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because our research, even when we have money, is not huge. So maybe you end up having partial funding or something like that. So when Darius talks about look for full funding, I think that it depends on the program, it depends on the institution, it depends on the country. Do your research. Professors need help. You have to be competitive because the applications, everybody is applying
yeah.
and they are all good students.
Yeah.
So what are you offering? What are you offering? Bernard, is there anything else you will say to that?
Uh, I think Darius has elaborated more on that. So the money is not a free money. You will be rendering a service. As for that one, you should be prepared, and then it comes with a lot of mental toughness because you get to spend practically most of your time in the labs, and then you also have to be reading for your own research. And if there is a maybe a lab project ongoing, you have to contribute to the lab project because you've been assigned portions of it. And sometimes, especially for me, um, most of the equipment that we've been using, I'm just having my first time hands on them. So you have to go through the required training, and then you have to build your your schedule around someone's schedule because they are available. They are the ones going to teach you the how to operate some of these equipment. So if you do not know, you can watch how it's being operated on YouTube or read on them, but still you need someone to be there to guide you as to, okay, we put this here, we do them here. And then most of the labs have lab technicians who will gladly kind of lend a helping hand when the need be. But then my point is that you just have to prime yourself for the work because the money is not free money. And
Yeah.
then you are being funded for, I think, a period of time. So you as an individual, you have to put in the effort to get as much as out of the time that you are being funded, and make sure you are also going through your or proceeding through your research successfully. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of hours, but then this is what you have signed up to do. So yeah, as soon as you come in and then you're able to adapt into the system, I think you should be able to give your best to merit the money that you are being paid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it can be, they can withdraw funding if you're not being productive. So
Yeah, I think so.
if you were just wasting somebody's money, they can easily withdraw the fund and then you go back home. Okay, so Darius, I mean, what have you learned through this process? If somebody is starting afresh, what would be your advice for the person?
So thank you so much. Bernard had given you a website to start from. That's if you do not have, like in my case, I had a pool of friends who I was learning from, so I didn't have to go through that route. If you don't have that opportunity, you can take what the website that Bernard shared a while ago, and then you work around it. Now, this is what I tell people when I have the chance to tell them. Okay, when you are doing it, Bernard said he had a diary or a notebook. Yes, it would be great for you to have an Excel spreadsheet or something for each and every one of them that you do. Take note of the school, take note of what recommendations are required, how many people you need to write recommendations on your behalf. So let's say you go to school one, you put the name of the school there, you copy the admission link, you copy. There was a time a friend of mine was going to apply to schools. He's in Albany now. And then he was telling me, I mean, we're applying together then. He says, Charlie, the schools, me, if I go, I don't really see the admission link. And I'm like, it takes time. You have to find it because you have to go to graduate school. You have to go this. You have to go there. So when you go through the hassle to find some of those things, you copy the admission link. You put it in there. So you say, okay, school number one. I have admission, the school name. I have a link to the admission or the application. You write the requirements. If they need 4 recommendations, you write it. You write a date that you need to submit your application, or let's say the deadline. And then if they have any special requirements like exam, like GRE, like TOEFL, you have to note that also. And then one thing that I always tell people is that you can always ask for waivers for some of the requirements. You can ask them, well, do I still need a waiver because I trained? I mean, my training or my teaching was in English, and English is our
Yeah.
official language. You can ask for a waiver. You can even ask for waivers for your application.
Application fee.
You can ask for a waiver. Put
Okay.
in an application and say that because you would have noted that okay, this school will need applications fee of $60. They need 3 recommendations by this date, and this is the program I'm going to apply. Make sure you have an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document or a notebook where all of these details are. I'll advise that you can put it into a soft copy so that it will be easier to copy things around. And then you can, let's say, copy a link, open it. You can, because applications are such that you can start, you cannot finish it at one point. And I would not advise anybody to sit down and finish an application at one point. Take time, at least give yourself 2 or 3 days. You open it, you start it, you go through, you leave it, you come back the next day, you look at it again and again. Make sure that you are avoiding mistakes in your documents. Where you're supposed to put SOP, then you go and put passport picture there. Where you're supposed to put passport picture, you go and put transcripts there. Organize all of your documents. Have your transcripts, have your SOPs, have these documents reviewed by people who have made it through the process. Give it to them. Every time you give your document to someone to read, trusted people who can look at your documents for you, they will always give you some input. They'll make some input. So you consider all of those things. Have all of your document. When you sit down, you open the application, you go through, wherever you get to, you stop, you come back to it again, you go through wherever you get to stop. And then when you finish, you don't submit it. You come back again to make sure that you have gone through the process. You have to be diligent and you have to make sure that you are doing everything meticulously. Pay attention to details and make sure that your application is without errors, because there are many applications that will be considered. And so the easy way to eliminate that, the way to make things easy for the committee is to just throw out those who do not submit proper applications, those who do not do things right. It makes their work easy. We just put those ones aside. If your application is riddled with mistakes, it can put the professor or the committee off. So have all of the documents that you need, have them proofread by yourself again and again. I mean, I remember what the story of my SOP looked like because I had read it again and again and again. So I can tell you how many paragraphs I have in there. I can tell you what's in paragraph 1, what's in paragraph 2, what's in paragraph 3, just because I had read it. It's just like reading, like the way we all read Cinderella or we all read Beauty and the Beast or Snow White. Have the story in your head. If anybody asks you that, okay, what do you have in paragraph 4 of your SOP or on your CV? You know what is there. Put your CV together. Make sure it's aesthetically beautiful. Anybody who looks at your CV will want to look at it again and again and again. There was a guy in my department who was even behind me. I was a TA to him. And one day I saw his CV and I was so amazed. I'm not surprised that he got into an Ivy League school for his PhD. He got into Stanford. And not only did he get into Stanford, he got really top schools, because I didn't even know. I saw his CV and I was like, oh, this is beautiful. I want to read it again and again and again. I entered one of the faculty's office and his CV was lying on the table. And then I read it because the faculty I was, it was someone I was working with. I was like, oh, is that so and so CV? He said, yes. Can I have a look at it? And I looked at it, and it was so beautiful,
Mm.
nicely. The content was great. I read it, and till date, if I get it, I'm going to read it again and again and again. Make sure your CV is appealing to read. Your SOP is appealing. Anybody who looks at it should enjoy the story that you are telling. Should appreciate the story that you are telling. It should say everything about you. That, hey, I'm a good guy out here. I know this and this and this. I'm ready to learn this and this and this. And when you bring me into your program, I bring this on board, this on board, this on board. Everybody wants to bring in some addition. Mind you, the US especially pay for productivity. They
Yeah.
don't just pay for anything. They pay for productive. So whenever they give you funding or program, it means that you're going to be productive. So tell them how you are going to be productive. Let them convince them that, okay, you're going to be productive. And you can only do that in your document, because they look at your document before they invite you for an interview. So you don't, it's not the reverse. So make sure that your document is going to speak well of you before your interview is scheduled. And then that will be a good opportunity for you to tell them more about whatever you have written in those documents. So for me, put your documents together,
Mm-hmm.
then organize them in a Word spreadsheet, MS Excel or MS Word, so that you can copy and paste things. And when you have finished everything, you can highlight it and say, okay, check, this is done. When you do something and say, okay, check, this is done. So you keep checking things, and then you make sure that by the deadline, you have submitted your application. I guess that will be it for me.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Like now
Okay,
you're
so
making me think about my
let's
CV. I'm like, here, Ade, what do I do? My CV doesn't look good though. I have to go and modify because Darius says it has to look so good that you want to read it again and again. Well, I have a job, so maybe I'm safe. It's not that bad.
oh Jesus.
Oh, Bernard, you can go ahead and
Okay,
share.
so to add to what Darius said, in terms of the application process,
Mhm.
I think you should also start early. It gives you
Okay.
a bit of an advantage because, mind you, you are competing with these you are competing with students from across the world. You have Indians. When you go to India, this whole graduate application thing is a full-time business on its own, where
Okay.
they actually literally guide students through each step of the process. So I think you should give it a time, your time, and then if possible, do it yourself. If
Okay.
possible, do it yourself. Don't go and pay any money to anybody to be um um doing applications on your behalf, and then by the time you realize they are uploading documents that do not speak to the kind of individual that you
Mhm.
claim you are. So do it yourself, and I think honesty too should be the key thing here. Don't put anything on your CV that you cannot defend on any day. Never put anything on your CV that you cannot defend on any day, because you are going to be called for an interview, and if you don't take care, you might have the best of grades, the best of research experiences, and then something minute on your CV might put the whole interview panel off, and then they might end up not recommending you for admission. This is a personal experience. During my interview,
Mhm.
because I'm a physician assistant, the one of the panel. He's a surgeon, and then he's also, I think he's the assistant dean. So he was part of the panel. So he asked me that, why am I trying to switch from clinical practice to basic science? And then
Okay.
I gave the initial reason that I gave to you here, and then he said that, am I conversant with the laboratories? Certain. I told him that no, but the basic ones that we did during my undergrad, that's what I know. And then, so on my CV, I had put on it that we did gram staining. So I think during my undergrad, we did where we pick onion, and then you slice them, and then you put some reagent on it, and then you view it under microscope. So when so it was one lady, she was a student on the panel. So she asked that on my CV, this is what I said. I said I've done gram stain. Which of the gram stainings that
Hmm.
I
Wow.
did, and then I
Mm-hmm.
explained to her that this is the one that I did. So assuming I had put something, and then I just to impress the committee, and then they ask you that okay, you said you've done flow cytometry. What and what do we do when you are going to do flow cytometry? I would have been there, and then I would look stupid in front of the whole committee. So I think that just be honest with yourself. Put
Okay.
Yes, you might want to sell yourself, but don't be so you get so high that you put stuff that do not reflect who you think you are, and then on the day of your interview they ask questions based on your CV. Because on the day of my interview they never asked any question outside of my CV, outside of my SOP. They asked about my research experience, the things that I had put on my SOP.
Yeah.
Was those things that they began to ask questions about. So nobody is going to ask questions outside of, they are not going to ask you hardcore questions that maybe you would have to read before you have to come and answer them. But you are going to answer questions based on the documents you submitted to them. So just make sure that you don't go and pay, because sometimes I know that these agencies, in their bid to maximize profit, they lure people into all kinds of things, that they will write nice things about you that do not necessarily reflect who
Mm.
you are. But I think that you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
Write your own compelling statement of purpose, and then if you think that you want somebody to spice it up for you, it is what you have that I'm going to spice it up. I'm not going to conjure anything and come and put it on your SOP for you, but it's what the basic or background information that you have given me. That's what I'm going to add certain things to it so that it can catch the attention of whoever that is reading it. So do it yourself. That's the point I'm trying to drive home. Do it yourself. Don't go and pay any money to any group of individuals who claim to know it all when it comes to graduate applications and then what have you. And then the other thing too that I also want to bring to the attention is the recommendation letters. Back home, you go to the department of maybe biology, they have a standard recommendation letter. It's a one-page
Yeah.
recommendation letter, and then they have Darius's name there. So the moment Bernard comes out, oh, I need a recommendation letter, they ask you to go and pay some money, and then you come to the departmental secretary's office, and she will just delete Darius's name, they will put Bernard's name, and that's all. It doesn't speak to you as an individual. So what I would try to tell people is that they should try and identify faculty members and professors back home who can really take time out of their busy schedules and really write something good about them.
For them. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've heard stories that when you go to India and all those places, these people, the professors will tell the people to go and write, and then they have.
Oh, you can speak. We can hear
Oh,
you.
okay. So and then they have these agencies that they write about the people, sometimes 2 pages, and then they will send it back to the professors, and the professors will just edit and then they will sign. So if you have somebody writing a recommendation letter about Darius for 2 pages, and then I have mine half a page, like if you are on admission committee, which of these two two students are you going to take serious?
Yeah.
So yes, I know that back home that's the norm, but try and then breach that norm and then go to professors or faculty members who can really actually write about you. So me, what I did was that I most all the three professors that wrote my SOP, my recommendation letters for me, they told me to document whatever that I think they will need to write about me. And then I also attached my CV to it, because most of them, one had supervised my undergraduate research, One was my boss at work, and then I also done research with him.
Mhm.
So, and then the other professor was a visiting professor who knew also about me, so they could actually write. But I needed to also go the extra mile to help them to write very good stuff about me. So I needed to just document. So for Professor A, you should write about A, B, C, D about me. Professor D, you should also write about A, B, C, D about me. And then for all three of them, I attached my recommendation letters. And God being so good, I had 2-page recommendation letters from all three of them.
Oh wow.
Because one thing you would, because they place so much emphasis on recommendation letters coming from your professors, because the recommendation letters you might not necessarily even get to see them, because the professors will send them directly to the school.
Yeah.
So you should get professors who will also go out of their way to do that thing for you. And then it comes back to what Darius was talking about, relationship. How was your relationship with your professors when you were back home, when you were in school? How do you relate with them? Because if they know that you are a good person and then you've been relating with them very well, they would also want to go the extra mile, because it's not just about writing the thing. When they finish writing, they have to scan, convert it into PDF. And you know how some of our professors, they are not that technology inclined. So it might have to take something for them to go through this whole pain of getting all these things done for you. And then when they are done, they have to upload it on the website and all these things. So that's why I said that start early, so that when anything goes wrong, you will be able to rectify them before the deadline. Because when the deadline is up, um you might not get the response that you were planning to get. And then one thing that just came up, when so if you want to apply to KNUST, it's
Mhm.
just one website. You go there and then you see all the programs and then you just apply. But over here, the application system has been decentralized. So every department has his own website, or kind of. So you might not necessarily see a general application link for all the programs. So
Yeah.
you have to narrow it down to your department. So if
Mhm.
it's Department of Biomedical Science, when you type maybe UND Biomedical Sciences Department, and then the website of the department will pop up, and then you go, there will be an admission application link over there, and then that's what you will use. So you cannot go and use application link for engineering when you intend to apply for biomedical science. So that's one thing that people should also know. Yeah.
And then, as an international student, you have to keep in mind that there may be another
Yeah,
level of application.
another. So when I was almost all the times that I was sending my emails to the program directors, I
Mhm.
will deliberately CC the international office, so that if there is anything
Mhm.
that the international office should add. Because sometimes, because when I was applying to UND, I had been told by the director of the admissions that because I'm coming from Ghana, I do not need TOEFL. TOEFL can be waived for me. But the international office, I don't know if it was a student who was on duty then, had told me that I would need to put in TOEFL. So you need to actually do these two checkpoints, and then you dovetail the two, and then that becomes your requirement. Because and most departments and most schools don't update their website frequently. So you also have to take the pain of, even though the thing is on the website, I know it is displayed glaringly on the website, but I will go beyond the website. I will go in and then go and ask whether the international office or the graduate admissions director to ask and hear it from their own mouth for the first time, and then that will be your requirement, and then you run with it. So I think that's all I want to share with regards to the application process.
Thank you so much, Bernard. Somebody has invaded my space. I didn't hear release you.
Well, she's a thriving friend. Hi.
Daddy, why? He's sleeping. Oh,
He just sold him out.
and the other is I don't know what to be Janiava. Timmy, way. Please excuse me. Let me find the place to put her so that we can conclude.
All right.
Somebody doesn't want to go. Hey, Madam Namilite, yeah, come. Okay, so this is what we'll do. I'll give her a phone. Imagine my phone. And then maybe I could that phone on. Is this like, it's okay. Okay. Well, continue why. Go and show Timmy my phone. Continue who wants this. Why? Okay. Need to sit down. Timmy Emerald is coming, okay? She has my phone. Forgot your Timmy. Okay. The phone worked. Oh, it's still recording. I mean, know how to pause it on now. All right. Whew. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing, Bernard. So when you were talking about asking about the TOEFL from the international office, I remember I was asked to write the TOEFL, and I was like, nope, I'm not writing this thing. So I happened to be in the US when I was applying for my masters. So I went to the admissions office. They could hear me speak. They knew I could understand, and then they did their kind of work, and then they realized that English is actually the official language for Ghana. And I think they were already waiving it from Nigeria or something like that, but Ghana wasn't waived yet. So then they sent email to this person and to that person and to that person and to that person. I don't know the process, but they all agreed that yeah, they should waive it for Ghana. So
Yeah, I think it brings us back to the issue Darius addressed earlier on, that if they know that a student from this country has ever been here before, it
yeah,
kind of sets the tone for how they deal with the subsequent students that will come from that country.
yeah. Yeah. And it's expensive. $200 here, this $100 here. When you add up, especially if you're doing multiple schools, it really adds up. It's
Because
expensive.
I've had my lab technician ask me multiple times that am I sure English is our main language? Because I really speak very well as if I was trained in the UK and all those. I don't know. Yeah.
I think the expectations, like Daria said, if they don't know what to expect. And some of them are not ready to take the risk, you know. So it's a great point you brought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Darius, is there anything else you want to add? Final words for thriving friends, anything they should prepare for as we leave them?
Well, thank you so much. So it's been a wonderful hour, and we've said many things. We may not have said everything, but we have said many things. Now, this is what I'll advise anybody to do. Um, Carefully listen to the audio or watch the video, and then if you have any questions, you always have to talk to people about this. One of the things, again, it takes me back to the fact that I had people who were in this business, who are doing this, so I could always talk to them. I could easily talk to them. It's always good for you to talk to someone. Someone must help you. Someone must direct you. Someone must proofread your documents, review them for you. And when I say someone, I mean somebody who has excelled in this business before. So yeah, I know people try to say, okay, we are a consult and come and pay and do this. To be honest, this is something that you can do by yourself. You don't have to go and pay anybody for them to do it for you. I
Mm.
mean, you can and you should be able to do it all by yourself. And thankfully, Dr. G pulled this piece together. So if you have any questions based on what you have heard and you want to get answers, you can always write her an email. And if she thinks that, okay, she wants to refer this to someone, she can always refer it to either of us. But I guess my last words will be that just go back and listen to everything that we have said, and pick some very good cues from there. Put your documents together, apply early, apply on time, and then make sure that you consider everything that we have said. Some of the schools will ask for application fees. The beautiful thing is, if you put in your application early, you can ask for an application waiver. You can give them good reasons why the $60 should be waived, whether fully waived or partially waived. The application, some will waive it for you, others will not. Bernard already told you there are more than 4,000 institutions of higher learning. So if you cannot afford to pay $90 or $100, if you can afford, absolutely, it's worth it. If you can afford, move to another school that will waive it for you. And trust me, more often than not, when you give good reasons to a school for them to waive it for you,
Yeah.
especially if your application comes in early, you have a chance. It could be waived. If it's not waived and you cannot afford it, okay, just move to another school. Next, just keep going, keep
Mm.
going. Make sure you apply to as many schools as possible. Leave no stone unturned. Like Bernard shared, that UND was his last. Me too, UND was my last. I had finished all my applications. I had finished.
I see.
My boss will say that my friend and big brother will say, hey, um, I was thinking we should do one more application. I was like, I think I have enough applications. I'm not going to do any more. He says, okay, well, I was thinking we should do this. I was okay, I'll figure out which one to do. And I came back, I'm like, okay, well, I think because of Dr. So and so, let's give one to UND. And I was even so sluggish about it. Like everything was slow, but as God will want it, and as a beautiful thing will be, UND was what I chose eventually amongst the others. So
Mm.
put in your applications early enough and get everything well, and get everything well organized so your application can be a competitive one. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Darius. And I mean, I'm sure maybe it should be a whole segment about why UND. I have people, as a bit interesting attitude towards some parts of the United States. If you say New York, people are like, oh my goodness, New York, California. Say North Dakota, like, where is that? Do people live there?
Yeah,
This
many
is
people
one of
think
those,
America is New York.
yes, I mean Maryland and New York and then Chicago. Asa, you know, yeah. So maybe a whole new segment for that. But please, 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 don't follow what people are saying and what people are doing. Go for the place that accepts you. Go for the place that gives the best offer, not just because it's New York or Chicago or Maryland. That is what I'm saying. I love it here. I love it at North Dakota. I love it at UND. I enjoy it here. It's cold, yes, but I have a jacket. So That's my own business. Okay. Man, any final words before we get off?
I think my Darius has said it all. But what I want to add is that if you really believe that um, you are like a young person like I was some years back, and then you have that passion, that desire that you want to do more with your life, and then maybe by getting a higher education will fulfill that desire for you. And then if you truly also want to come have that graduate or higher degree in the United States,
Mhm.
give it a try. Yeah, it can be it can be a bit demanding and then a very exacting with the entire process, but it's always worth it. And then the rejections may come. Some schools will reject you, some schools might not even mind you, and then you might feel you are less of a student or something, but that's not the case. That's not the case. And then
Mm,
you only need one school to say yes with a decent funding for you to get here.
yeah.
So um just keep on knocking the doors till one of them opens for you. And then one last thing is that if you also think you cannot pay for the application fees, there is this thing that usually most of the graduate schools will do. So they call it graduate open house.
Okay.
So all you need to do is that you go to the school's website early. Mostly they do it either ending of October and early November. So if you just all you need to do is just to register to attend the open house. And because of COVID, they started doing it via Zoom. So some of the schools that I applied to, I got that open house application fee waiver because I registered to attend. They will
Mm,
do it very late in Ghana, but I needed that $75, that $95 to be waived for me. So I
yeah.
had to stay at night just so I will attend, and then they will take my attendance that Bernard attended the open house. And based on that, he's getting the Dean of Graduate Schools open house waiver. And I know most of the schools do that open house. So the open house is basically to for them to introduce their programs that they have. So all the graduate programs, they will come and talk about it based on faculty basis. It's just a brief description. So if you just attend, you get the waiver. So people can also explore that one, that route by to get the what do you call it, the application fees waived for them. And Darius also said it doesn't hurt anything. You all you need to do is just write to them that based on A, B, and C,
You can
um,
afford. Yeah.
you want your application fee to waive. You want to come here, but you don't have the money to put in the application. And I don't think they would want the application fee to be a stumbling block between you and your graduate journey. And so some of them will gladly waive it for you. And one thing too that most of the schools can sort of preview your application materials before they give you a decision. So you can also use that loophole in the system that you forward your application documents to possibly to the admissions director, and you tell him that he can preview your application document for you, whether you stand the chance before you even put in the application. Most schools offer that,
Yeah.
and they will not write it on their website, but you have to test the waters. So you just send a respectful and then a decent email to the graduate director that you want them to preview your application document for you, whether you stand the chance, so that you don't go and waste your $100 on a school that you know deep within you that you don't stand the chance. So that one too is a way you
True.
can use to waive, or not necessarily waive, but you maximize the use of your little savings on your application fees. So that's my closing remarks. And then don't give up. Keep knocking the doors till they open for you.
That's really, really good. Thank you so much. I actually forgot. Yeah. And when you send the email and nobody responds, send again and again, maybe two or three times. And if you really don't get a response, you move on. Sometimes gets missing. But now thinking about it, in my program where I teach, there is somebody dedicated to this. And I can't see that person intentionally not responding to emails, you know. So most schools will have somebody in charge of admissions and, like Bernard shared, preview for me, or what do I need, or is everything okay? And they will respond. Somebody will respond, and maybe somebody will not. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but give it a try. Give it a try. One doesn't work, move on to the other. So thank you all so, so, so much for this time, your generosity with your time and your insights and your experiences. We are very grateful, and I'm sure somebody out there is going to be blessed by this. I wish you both the very best with your academics. I hope we get in touch again and maybe discuss a new topic that will help us all thrive intellectually. What do you say?
Yeah, we can do it. That sounds like a plan.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day. And Thriving Friends, we have the links in the description. If you want to reach out to any of them, the links they've provided, use those to reach them. If you want to know more about their institution, the link is also there. And then make use of the resources available to you. We've shared what we can, but most of it will now depend on you, whether you make it or not. You have to do the work. So we wish you also the very best, and we hope to see you in our next video. Bye.
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 Have a good one. Bye.
Timmy, I'm recording. Hello, thriving friends. Welcome back to Thriving Generation, now Thriving Generation Global. I am so excited for this new phase for this channel and this podcast. Now we are doing podcast and YouTube channel at the same time. Wherever you are watching us from, wherever you are listening from, welcome. My name is Dr. G. I am a success and wellness advocate. I'm also a certified health education specialist. I am a researcher and an educator in public health. That is what my PhD is in. But I just love life, and I love to serve, and I love to share resources. So on this platform, that is what we do. We learn from each other, and we try to share resources and tips that will help us thrive in all areas of our lives. This month, we are dedicating to intellectual wellness. And today, we are going to share information on how to apply for schools abroad. I am an international faculty in the United States. I know how I applied to get here. It can be done. And I know people coming in every day, coming to school, growing in school. So I'm inviting a few friends to join me and share their experiences so that you out there, if you're considering applying to school abroad, this is just an example. This is the United States, but maybe you can also use that for other countries out there. So join us and let's meet our guest for today.